One of the core practices of Stoicism is remaining firmly anchored in the present moment, undisturbed by what has passed or what may come. Marcus Aurelius advised, confine yourself to the present. When a woman ignores or rejects you, the mind instinctively travels backward and forward. You replay the interaction repeatedly, analyzing what you did wrong, or you project into the future, fearing that you will always be ignored or never find connection. But the Stoics remind us that most of this suffering is self-created. It does not arise from the event itself, but from mental time travel. The interaction has already ended, yet the mind continues reliving it, multiplying discomfort. Consider a workplace example. You attempt to speak with a colleague you find attractive. She responds coldly, checks her phone, avoids eye contact. The encounter is brief but uncomfortable. For many people, the emotional residue lingers. Self-doubt, resentment, replaying the conversation. These thoughts may dominate the rest of the day. But ask yourself, what part of this internal replay affects the present moment? The event is over. She has returned to her world. Why carry the weight of it forward? Seneca observed that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. By continuing to relive the interaction, you create ongoing distress where none objectively exists. The Stoic alternative is to release the event immediately. Acknowledge the natural sting, then let it pass. Breathe, return to the present, shift attention to what is constructive and within your control. This state of balanced composure is what the Stoics called apatheia, not emotional numbness, but clarity unclouded by excessive disturbance. You are not required to suppress feelings. Initial disappointment is natural, but you are not obligated to prolong it through repetitive narrative. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. When you stop feeding hurt with interpretation, it fades naturally. Emotional strength lies not in denial, but in disciplined release. No one can disturb your peace without your participation. As Epictetus declared, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Perhaps you've experienced this. You notice a woman at a social gathering. Immediately your attention narrows. You scan her expressions, her body language, trying to interpret signs of interest. You rehearse approaches in your mind. Your internal balance shifts. Now your satisfaction depends on whether she responds positively. This is precisely where self-possession begins to weaken. The Stoic alternative is radical detachment. On a philosophical level, this means accepting that her existence in relation to your worth is irrelevant. Whether she notices you or not changes nothing about your path. When validation shifts inward, emotional independence emerges. Her attention becomes optional, not essential. Consider public figures like Keanu Reeves or Larry David. Part of their appeal comes from apparent indifference to public approval. They seem self-contained. Their calm lack of concern creates intrigue. Now, imagine you are at a party. Instead of fixating on impressing a woman you find attractive, you deliberately adopt an attitude of composure and independence. Her presence or absence does not alter your direction. You engage fully with friends. You laugh naturally. You immerse yourself in the environment without scanning constantly for her response. This creates a different energy. Confidence gravitates toward confidence. When you are not chasing attention, you appear grounded. When you are not monitoring reactions, you appear self-assured. Often, paradoxically, this very detachment draws curiosity. The Stoics described this as living according to nature, flowing with events rather than gripping tightly to outcomes. By refusing to attach yourself to a predetermined romantic result, you free yourself to act authentically. If conversation happens naturally, you engage calmly. If she walks away, nothing in you collapses. Marcus Aurelius advised giving yourself the gift of handling the present moment well. When you remain undisturbed by whether your desires are fulfilled, your dignity remains intact. This is not about playing games. It is about genuine self-containment. At the center of Stoic philosophy lies a profound truth. The most valuable wealth is not external status, admiration, or romantic success. It is the inner wealth cultivated through virtue and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The only wealth which you will keep forever is the wealth you have given away." At first glance, this sounds paradoxical. But the Stoics understood that the virtues we embody, integrity, resilience, courage, discipline, are the only assets that cannot be taken from us. The more we live by them, the stronger and more self-assured we become. Now consider being ignored by someone you are attracted to. If your self-worth depends on their attention, the emotional impact will be intense. But if your value is rooted in deeper reservoirs, emotional intelligence, knowledge, physical discipline, service to others, then their indifference cannot destabilize you. You may feel a natural disappointment, but your core remains intact. The Stoics viewed life as an art form, the art of living. Each day is an opportunity to refine character and expand wisdom. By committing to continuous self-development, you construct an inner foundation that towers above superficial judgments. Imagine you have spent years mastering a field you care about, whether entrepreneurship, medicine, teaching, engineering, or creative arts. It applies to fitness, emotional maturity, intellectual growth, creativity, and service. Every domain that challenges you strengthens you. The Stoics called the resulting state eudaimonia, flourishing through virtuous living. True fulfillment does not arise from applause, but from alignment with your highest capabilities. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." So invest in what compounds internally. Develop knowledge, cultivate resilience, strengthen discipline, expand empathy. When you become someone of depth and substance, you are no longer preoccupied with being noticed. And paradoxically, the quiet strength that comes from genuine self-improvement often becomes magnetic in itself. For the Stoics, all teachings ultimately pointed toward one mission: to live a life rooted in virtue. Marcus Aurelius expressed it clearly: to live a good life. We have the potential for it, if we can learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference. The Stoics trained themselves to distinguish between what truly matters and what is merely distraction. Wealth, pleasure, admiration, and status were seen as secondary. The highest pursuit was the cultivation of the four cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Wisdom meant disciplined reasoning and a refusal to be carried away by impulse or illusion. Imagine meeting someone who immediately captivates you. It is easy to project fantasies onto them, imagining compatibility, future scenarios, emotional significance. But the Stoic asks, what do I truly know? Am I reacting to reality or to projection? Epictetus warned that the first task of philosophy is to rid oneself of self-conceit. Wisdom requires pausing before forming conclusions and grounding judgments in reason rather than emotional exaggeration. Justice, in Stoic philosophy, extended beyond legal fairness. It meant moral integrity and treating others in alignment with rational virtue. If someone ignores or dismisses you, justice does not call for retaliation. It calls for restraint. To descend into bitterness or revenge would harm your own character more than it harms them. As the Stoics observed, when someone acts unjustly toward you, that injustice belongs to their character, not yours. Courage is the willingness to uphold your principles despite discomfort. In romantic contexts, courage may mean honestly expressing interest despite possible rejection. After being ignored, the impulse may be to obsess, to replay conversations, or to attempt dramatic gestures to regain attention. But temperance asks, what aligns with my highest integrity? Rather than indulging wounded ego, the Stoic calmly accepts what cannot be changed and preserves composure. The aim of these virtues is not emotional suppression, but human flourishing. Seneca wrote that a life spent performing praiseworthy actions is long enough. No one can make you feel unworthy without your participation. The path is open to all who cultivate the highest, most virtuous versions of themselves from their inexhaustible wellsprings of dignity. I encourage you to integrate these Stoic practices into your daily life, mainly when dealing with challenging interpersonal situations or setbacks. As always, I welcome your comments and insights about applying this philosophical wisdom in empowering ways. For those seeking more guidance, check out the recommended resources and readings I've linked below. The path of the Stoics is one of lifelong learning and growth. Thanks for joining me, and walk on unshaken, my friends.